Can HH send a rep to Lungu's funeral? Legal twist. Can Nalumango represent him? Good day, viewers. Welcome to another edition of the InspirAfrica Official. I'm Nakash. I hope you're all doing well this week, enjoying the beautiful autumn weather we've been having here in the region. Today, we're diving into a story that has gripped Zambia for months. A story that has tested the very fabric of the nation's unity and exposed deep political wounds that refuse to heal. Picture this: a former president, gone for 4 months now, still waiting to be laid to rest. His body held in a foreign land, caught in a legal storm that has turned a funeral into a constitutional crisis. The man who once ruled from State House, now the center of a bitter standoff between those who once stood against him and those who stood with him. Can a sitting head of state be barred from attending a national funeral? Can the office of the presidency be rejected like an unwelcome guest at a private gathering? If the president is deemed undesirable, can he simply send his deputy, his vice president, to slip through the door he's been shut out of? These aren't merely questions of protocol or etiquette. They cut to the heart of what it means to honor the dead while respecting the office of the living. They ask us, who has the final say when a nation mourns? The family, the state, the Constitution? And what happens when love turns to bitterness? When political rivalry outlives even death itself? What if this standoff isn't just about one man's funeral, but about the future of how Zambia buries its leaders? What if the way this ends will set a precedent that haunts State House for generations? And most pressingly, can you truly send a representative to a place where you yourself have been explicitly forbidden to enter? Stay tuned for more neutral, factual, and in-depth analysis on Zambia's most talked about political stories. The revelation came to light on June 5, 2025, when Edgar Lungu, Zambia's 6th Republican president, died while receiving medical treatment in South Africa. He was 68 years old. The man who had led the nation from 2015 to 2021, who lost power to his fierce political rival Hakainde Hichilema in a bitterly contested election, was gone. But death did not bring closure. Instead, it ignited a conflict that would paralyze Zambian politics for months. Within hours of Lungu's passing, a rift emerged. The Lungu family, through their spokesperson and lawyer Makibi Zulu, made their position crystal clear. President Hakainde Hichilema, their late father's successor and longtime adversary, was not welcome at the funeral. The family demanded that Lungu be buried in South Africa, far from the state protocols that dictated all former Zambian presidents must be laid to rest at Embassy Park in Lusaka. By June 21st, the impasse had become a full-blown constitutional crisis. Vice President Mutale Nalumango stood before Parliament, visibly troubled, calling the situation unfortunate and urging Zambians to allow the family to make their own decisions. She assured the nation that government remained committed to a dignified burial, but acknowledged the deep divisions threatening to overshadow the mourning. The battle moved to the courts. On June 25th, just hours before a planned private burial ceremony in Johannesburg, South Africa's High Court stepped in, halting the proceedings. Zambia's Attorney General Mulalo Kabesha had filed an urgent application, arguing that a former head of state cannot simply be buried abroad without proper state honors. By August 8th, the South African High Court in Pretoria delivered its ruling. Edgar Lungu's body must immediately be handed over to representatives of the Zambian court system for repatriation and burial in Lusaka. The judge was unequivocal. A former president's personal wishes or the wishes of his family cannot outweigh the right of the state to honor that individual with a state funeral. Bertha Lungu, Edgar's sister, wept openly in the courtroom as the judgment was read. The Patriotic Front Party announced they would appeal, and the standoff continued. Then came the breakthrough. In mid-October 2025, family spokesperson Makibi Zulu appeared on Emmanuel Mwamba's TV show and laid down the terms that could end the deadlock. If today, Zulu said, the president said, I will not attend Mr. Lungu's burial. I will hand over to the vice president, and we will give him his full honors and all. Tomorrow we would start off to come to Zambia. It is that simple. The proposal seemed straightforward. President Hichilema should publicly announce he won't attend, delegate Vice President Mutale Nalumango to represent him, and the family would immediately bring Lungu's remains home for burial. But that's when the lawyers, political analysts, and ordinary Zambians began asking the question that would dominate the national conversation. Can you actually send a representative to a funeral you've been barred from attending? Makibi Zulu has been the most vocal voice for the Lungu family throughout this ordeal. Speaking with a mixture of determination and frustration, he told Emmanuel Mwamba's podcast, "If today the president said, 'I will not attend Mr. Lungu's burial. I will hand over to the vice president, and we will give him his full honors and all,' tomorrow we would start off to come to Zambia. It is that simple. That is why we are saying let us pray for the government so that reason prevails over self or ego, and the wishes of the family are respected." He continued, his voice firm. "We have to respect the widow and the family. As for threats of arrest if I return to Zambia, we have not committed any offense. Let's stick to the truth. We are here, and we will protect that wish even if it means any of us going to prison for wanting to honor the wishes of ECL." When asked what would make the family budge, Zulu was emphatic. "If HH today appoints someone else to preside over Lungu's funeral, we are ready to bring the body to Zambia in 2 seconds." But not everyone agreed this was reasonable. Reverend Lawrence Musunt, writing a widely circulated analysis, posed the central dilemma. The president cannot delegate the vice president to represent him at a funeral where he himself is unwelcome. To do so would be to sneak the office of the presidency into a space where it has been openly rejected. The family's refusal is not against a man, it is against the office. He illustrated his point with a homespun metaphor. Imagine Matthew is getting married to Pet Rooter, but they don't want Lawrence at their wedding. Can Lawrence send a representative to a wedding he's not invited to? Should Lawrence find someone to crash the wedding and deliver his message to the bride and groom? That's absurd. Because Lawrence wasn't invited, he has no wedding invitation to give a representative. Reverend Musunt drove the point home. If President Hakainde Hichilema is barred, not invited, and deemed undesirable at President Edgar Lungu's funeral, then Vice President Madam Mutale Nalumango cannot truly represent him in any official capacity. Representation implies permission or acceptance by the host. Inside Parliament, the questions grew more pointed. During the Vice President's question time, Stephen Kampiongo, Member of Parliament for Shirwangandu, stood and asked Vice President Nalumango directly, "What is government doing to maintain Zambia's reputation as a leader in regional conflict resolution in light of the ongoing burial impasse?" Vice President Nalumango responded with visible emotion, her words measured but laden with frustration. "The situation is unfortunate. We must call for this matter not to be used for political gain. It is regrettable that there is a standoff regarding the burial of the former president. Government remains committed to according Mr. Lungu a dignified and befitting burial." When Michelo Casada, MP for Bwengwa, asked whether the Lungu family was committing a crime by keeping the body in South Africa, Nalumango clarified, "The family is not in violation of any law. Government would have already intervened if there was any law broken." But in another session, when Miles Sampa, MP for Maturo, pressed her on whether government would honor the family's demand that President Hichilema not be near Lungu's remains, Vice President Nalumango posed a question back to Parliament. "Is it treasonous for the family of the late former President Edgar Lungu to demand a state funeral without the presence of the head of state?" She urged national unity. "We should use Mr. Lungu's funeral as an opportunity to unite the country, rather than allowing political divisions to overshadow the occasion. Mr. Lungu should be mourned with dignity, without political differences taking precedence." Despite political disagreements with the 6th Republican president, the government never wished him harm. The constitutional scholar and politician Mulna Kapwepwe, daughter of independence hero Simon Kapwepwe, weighed in from a different angle. Speaking on KBN TV, she said, "There is still room for President Hakainde Hichilema to respect the wishes of the Lungu family and allow them to do what they want. If the government has done more than enough, let them allow the Lungu family to do what they have. President Hichilema should respect the Lungu family's decisions the same way former President Kenneth Kaunda respected the wishes of the Kapwepwe family." Her comments sparked fierce debate, with many arguing that her father was never a head of state and therefore the situations were not comparable. The South African judge who delivered the August ruling was blunt in legal terms. A former president's personal wishes or the wishes of his family cannot outweigh the right of the state to honor that individual with a state funeral. Zambia's Attorney General Mulalo Kabesha, standing outside the Pretoria courthouse, said simply, "The government appreciates the judge's ruling." But perhaps the most poignant image was Bertha Lungu, Edgar's sister, weeping in the courtroom as the judgment was announced, a symbol of how deeply personal this battle had become. At its core, this standoff raises profound questions about the nature of power, honor, and the state's role in national mourning. The first question is legal. Does the state have the right to compel a burial ceremony against family wishes? The South African court answered yes, at least when it comes to former heads of state. The ruling established that national interest and constitutional protocol can, under certain circumstances, override personal or family preferences. This sets a precedent not just for Zambia, but potentially for other African nations grappling with similar questions of how to honor their leaders. But then there's the deeply human question that lawyers struggle to answer. Should you force a family to accept the presence of someone they view as their loved one's political enemy, even at a funeral? The Lungu family's position stems from genuine pain. Edgar Lungu and Hakainde Hichilema were not just political opponents. They were bitter rivals who traded harsh words for years. Lungu once said of HH, "This Tonga will never be the president of Zambia." A statement dripping with ethnic prejudice that has not been forgotten. The family sees HH's attendance as an insult to their patriarch's memory, a final indignity they refuse to allow. Yet the government's position is equally principled. President Hichilema represents more than just himself. He represents the office of the presidency and the 3 million Zambians who voted for him. To be barred from a state funeral is to diminish not just the man, but the office itself and, by extension, the will of the electorate. This brings us to the representation question that has consumed the debate. Can Vice President Nalumango truly represent President Hichilema at a funeral he's been explicitly banned from? Reverend Muzunt's argument is that representation requires acceptance by the host. You cannot force your delegate into a space where you yourself are unwelcome. It's like trying to attend a party by proxy. The invitation wasn't extended to you, so you have no right to send someone in your place. Others counter that in state matters, protocol supersedes personal feelings. The vice president represents the office of the presidency, not just the individual president. Therefore, if the family accepts a state funeral with state honors, they implicitly accept the presence of state representatives, including whoever the sitting president designates. The political implications are staggering. If the Lungu family wins this battle, it establishes that families can essentially veto the sitting president's participation in state funerals. This could weaponize death itself, turning funerals into political battlegrounds where the bereaved hold all the cards. Conversely, if the state wins, it could set a chilling precedent where government can override even the most intimate family wishes in the name of national protocol. The reactions from the Zambian public have been predictably divided along political lines. Supporters of the Patriotic Front see this as HH's final act of persecution against Lungu, a man they believe was hounded out of office and now cannot even rest in peace on his own terms. They see the delegation of Nalumango as a cynical attempt to have it both ways. Claim to respect the family while still imposing the state's will. UPND supporters, however, view the family's stance as petty, tribal, and disrespectful to the office of the presidency. They point out that HH attended the funeral of Kenneth Kaunda despite having been barred from it while in opposition, showing grace where the Lungu family shows only bitterness. Religious leaders have called for both sides to compromise, but what does compromise look like when the positions are so fundamentally opposed? Either HH attends or he doesn't. Either the family's wishes are honored or the state's protocols are enforced. There seems to be no middle ground. And hanging over all of this is the body itself. 4 months in a South African morgue, waiting. Waiting as lawyers argue. Waiting as politicians posture. Waiting as a nation tears itself apart over a question that should unite rather than divide. How do we honor our dead? Thank you so much for watching this edition of InspirAfrica Official. This story of Edgar Lungu's burial impasse touches on so many fundamental questions about our politics, our values, and how we balance state protocol with family wishes. I want to hear from you in the comments below. Do you think President Hichilema should send Vice President Nalumango to represent him at the funeral? Or is that, as some argue, trying to sneak the office of the presidency into a space where it's been rejected? Can the vice president truly represent the president at a funeral the president has been barred from? And more broadly, should the state have the power to dictate funeral arrangements for former leaders, even against family wishes? These are not easy questions, and I genuinely want to know what you think. Drop your comments below, let's have a respectful discussion, and let's learn from each other's perspectives. If you found this documentary informative, please Please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We'll be following this story closely as it continues to unfold, and we'll bring you updates as soon as there are new developments. I'll be back with another edition tomorrow, bringing you more in-depth analysis of the stories that matter most to Africa and the world. Until then, take care, stay informed, and keep thinking critically about the issues that shape our nations. This is Nakash, signing off from InspirAfrica Official.